Well, we are with Sam Otto. Sam, can you introduce yourself, please?
So my name's Sam Otto. I'm an actor, and I play the role of Jalal in The State.
How did you come to be in this particular show?
Well, I was still at drama school when they first started casting for this. So the woman who eventually became my agent came to an agent showcase, saw me perform my monologue, and then she got me in for the first audition. And then I ended up doing the rest of the auditions until I eventually got the part.
Wow.
So yeah.
Yeah, luck and also, I suppose, talent, because I saw the film and they're astounding. What you're feeling about this show?
About the whole
The
whole
whole
thing.
thing.
Yeah, I mean it was for me it was my first screen role, so that was an incredible thing to be doing anyway. To work with Peter Kosminski in something that's so profound and powerful and important. So it's not often as an actor you get a chance to do something that's more than just a performance.
You said important, deep, and powerful. Could you expatiate on that, please?
Well, just in the fact that this is a real world issue. It has a real world impact, and it's still happening right now, and so it's obviously very political in its approach as well, and it's going to change people's hopefully outlook about how to deal with this as an issue.
Yeah, tell us about your character, Jalal.
Yeah.
Because maybe people haven't seen the film. They
Yeah.
don't know what it's about.
So he's a young British Muslim who, for reasons that are expounded upon throughout the show, decides to go to Syria to fight for the Islamic State. For him, it's very much about honor and duty. So he's following his brother's footsteps, that he's set down a path for him, and he's going because he believes it's the morally right thing to do, to go and protect people and to fight for the oppressed in Syria against Assad's government.
You mentioned several times that it was something important. How did you come to be aware of the importance precisely of what you were doing?
Well, I mean, obviously, first of all, it's excruciatingly obvious being in Europe, obviously in France and in England, particularly at this time when we were first started getting involved with it, that the issue of radical Islam and this fear of terrorism, this lack of understanding about why people might want to go and what happens in this place it was so obvious. So first of all, the sensitivity of the material was really clear. When I heard about a drama covering young British Muslims that have travelled to the Islamic State, it was clear that it was going to be something very sort of contentious and controversial, but also, if handled well, it could really be a force for good, because Peter, who wrote and directed it, who's incredible, he always said that if we are to even begin to combat this as an ideal, we have to understand it. So this is a story which hasn't often been discussed at all. The details of what actually happens in Syria, in the Islamic State, or happened, you might say now, particularly when young people go over there without any real understanding of what's going to happen.
Yeah, precisely. How did you get this information? It seems to be pretty realistic.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Peter and his researcher, who's this incredible man, they spent an entire year doing this really detailed research into the specifics of what happens there, and the sort of the online conversations that go on, the sort of the dark web, these forums and things that happen where people have these conversations. A lot of people are sort of lured into little groups and things with this idea of, heroism, about being a soldier and a hero. Especially they obviously would be targeting isolated individuals, particularly in communities that are perhaps marginalised themselves back in wherever it is, or in our case, London. So they spent this year gathering this complete detail. The researcher actually went to Syria, and he was able to speak to people as much as he could directly about their experiences, and then he fed all that back to us when we, the cast, were first introduced to the group.
Tell us about Peter Kosminski as a director.
He's outstanding. I mean, as when people talk about actors, directors, I would definitely say that's him. I mean, for me, it was my first experience working on screen, and he has this wealth of experience. He's so well respected, but he still was so generous with his energy and his time that he kind of gave us these parts, these roles that he'd created. So for me, in my personal experience, he sat me down before I'd even started shooting, and he laid out this immense bank of backstory for Jalal, the character, and then he sort of spoke to me for literally an hour or two about this detail. Then he said, that's yours now to do with what you want. And then, you know, fill in the gaps, come to the set with what you have, and then we'll work from there. And on set as well, he was just totally receptive to any ideas we might have had. And he created this environment of such freedom, and he gave us so much time to prepare that it meant, I think, we really were able to get the most out of our performances, I hope.
Yeah. Well, look, I
He was
mean, you
amazing.
know that it's astounding. And you said something about him not wanting you to see the rushes.
Yeah, he didn't want us to. That was one of the pieces of advice he gave us on set, was to not watch the monitor back after scenes, which I've taken with me on in work I've done afterwards, because he said if you start to watch yourself back, then you begin to externalize it, because in your head you're imagining how you look, and then you're not focusing on your feeling and what you're dealing with the other person. So it's very much about internalizing it rather than externalizing it, and that makes total sense. And so when I heard that from him, I was like, actually, yeah, that's a really useful piece of advice, and I'll use that going forwards.
Yeah, now, about the acting precisely, I mean, you come from the theatre.
Yeah.
This is your first major role, and suddenly you find yourself in front of the camera, there are close-ups, it's completely different.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, like, so my training was very much theatre-based training. Most of the training in London is, and that's the sort of the base of, you know, acting training, is that it's the theatre. And that's great, because I do think actually it's much easier to transition from theatre into screen than it is the other way around, because there are certain things you have to develop on stage just to fill the space, the physical aspect and the vocal aspect. But what I love about screen work is that it enables you to capture so much more, because you're that much closer. So one of the lovely things about this part, and important things about it, is that so much is said without being verbalized, you know, without being said. It's all about the little glances and the stuff that's going on under the surface.
Absolutely.
And
yes,
that makes the character
definitely.
much more interesting as well, because you're starting to go, what's he really thinking here?
Yeah, so yes, tell us a bit more about that, your project, your plans.
Well, having done the state, it's opened up a lot of, you know, many doors, because it's a leading
No
role.
wonder, when you see the film.
That's very kind. But yeah, so I mean, for me, the dream is to be doing as many things as possible, as many roles as possible, to create a sort of a varied tapestry of characters. So since the state, I did a pilot for a series called Snowpiercer, which was filmed in Vancouver, and we're going back at the end of this year to finish that off for a few months. And that's kind of sci-fi. It was based on Le Transpersonnage, the French graphic novels, which then became a film, and now they're going to expand on this world of dystopian, frozen world in which a condensed humanity exists on this train that perpetually circumnavigates the Earth. So that's really exciting, sort of about class warfare and that sort of thing. And then I'm doing a film right now in London, which is about the corruption between property speculators and the police around the construction of the Olympic Park in Stratford. So, yeah.
Well, it was really a pleasure having you here, and
Thanks so much for
best
having
of
me.
luck for the rest of your career.
Thank you.
And anyway, you have the talent, so all you need is the luck.
Well, let's hope
Thanks a
so.
lot.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot very much.
Merci beaucoup.